get the privilege of interviewing Dr. Larry Visser this morning. Larry, you've been playing music here for quite some time, and I'll be honest, I wasn't a big fan of organ music and hymns before coming to the grave, but you have most certainly changed my mind about that. Just a couple questions for you. First of all, how did God call you to be the minister of music here at LaGrave?
Well, Jonah, as I reflect on my call to ministry, I start by saying that it did not happen, that call did not happen in a single event. Rather, it evolved and developed over many, many years, starting at a very young age, actually. I like to think of it as God's slow and careful work of making His purpose known and His will known in my life.
Yes.
Through many people that He put into my life and events. And so if I think of where it all started, in a sense, I think you could say it started with my very first piano lesson.
Oh man, how old were you?
I was probably 6 or 7 years old. I don't remember exactly, but probably second grade. And it was very obvious that God gave me musical gifts from a very early age. Of course, at that age, I did not know where it would lead or that I would pursue a career in music, but that's really the spark that started it all.
And sort of this natural gift that you had to play?
Exactly right. Okay. And to me, I view that as that was God's initial way of saying, this child is going to use music to glorify and honor me. And so that's where it all started. Putting teachers in my life was an important thing. They served as an inspiration to me, and mentors, and developing my gifts under their leadership. Then as I pursued more school, teenage years, adolescent years, my interest grew in the organ, and as it often does for piano students, and that evolved actually through hearing organists in my home church play worship services. I love to go to church to hear the organ, the sermon too, of course, but they were good organists, and they too were placed in my life, I know, as inspirational people.
Yeah, some sort of signpost or
guiding
beacon.
And I said to myself, this is what I know I can do and what I want to do with my life. And so that was an important period. At age 15, I started playing in my church after about 3 or 4 years of organ lessons. So I was young. It was actually before I made my profession of faith.
Oh, really?
Which was a bit questionable with some of the elders at the time. I joke about that now, but they needed organists badly. And so I started playing at age 15.
Okay, yeah.
And the next step would be pursuing music, formal study of music in college, at Calvin College, again, meeting so many wonderful people, Christian professors, many of whom I've developed lifelong relationships with, namely Merle and Betty Mustard, John Hammersma, John Wurst, Howard and Marilyn Slink, all teachers and mentors. Many of whom were church musicians themselves and still are.
Some more beacons, some more signposts.
Wonderful mentors in my life. A couple events and things that God called me to while I was in college. I played for the No Crest worship services in addition to staying on as organist at my home church. So that was, in a sense, a call to minister to fellow classmates in No Crest worship services. And then some of the richest experiences during my college years were the many tours that I went on with Calvin's Capella under Merle and Betty's leadership. And wonderful deepening experiences in my spiritual journey and faith formation, going to Europe and playing organs in beautiful cathedrals and with classmates, and it's just such a rich experience.
Sort of feel like rounding out the whole experience. You had some education, you had some experience here, but then growing even more in the richness and the love.
And I view that all as part of God's call to all of those important events. And then that continued on through graduate school, my move away from home to Ann Arbor, to University of Michigan, where I also had some further calls from God. One thing that was valuable was starting to work in denominations, in churches of denominations other than my own, outside the Christian Reformed Church. So I worked for 2 years in a Lutheran church, and then about 7 or 8 years in a Methodist church. And those were valuable experiences to learn different worship traditions, different beliefs, and they were all Protestant churches, of course, so very close to our own, but some differences, and those were valuable experiences for me to work.
Did they kind of help set your direction of where you wanted to work?
Somewhat.
Denominationally?
Somewhat,
Okay.
Yes. I never dreamt I would be called back to my own denomination at that time.
Okay.
But I was very comfortable working in both those traditions.
Gotcha.
And the other experience was my organ teacher, James Kibbe, sat down with me in a meeting, and he said to me, "Larry, you seriously need to consider entering an international organ competition in France." And I thought at the time, there's no way I'm going to do this.
How old are you about this time?
Oh, probably in my 20s.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, that's way too much work, and I just won't be able to do that while doing my degree. And he saw something in me that I was capable of doing this, and I thought about it and prayed about it. And it turned out to be the single richest experience of my life as a young person.